Trade of the day, it's going to be brought to you as always by Day Trade the World and brought to you by Tesla. Oh my goodness, there were a lot of shorting opportunities this morning across the board. I was looking at some Silvergate, which had earnings today. Tesla was a bit more of a tricky story because there were a lot of trades where it had that big move at the open, and if you were focused on something else, it was difficult to catch this one. What I love about it, it's a great learning experience. We've already had monster moves in the last couple of sessions. I got a 60-minute up here because I wanted to be able to sort of show you where we're coming from back in that 240 range, and then how we've had that nice consolidation going into today off of about 225 marked off and this 227 top. So when we had that big rejection at 240, the last time it popped and dropped, we had this lower high that got put in there. And then in yesterday's trade, you essentially challenged that top in late trade and then sort of heading back into the downside. So we know exactly what we're looking for. So when this happens and you're not in this pop and fade, look, that's where I was shorting Intel. That's where I was shorting, not Coinbase, Silvergate. So at 9:30, I'm not in this bad boy. And all of a sudden, we get the move and it checks up right at that 225 to 227 area. And I remember there was a conversation Luke and I were sort of having going back and forth. It's like, I don't know, Tesla could still be finding support, could be along. And I was just saying to myself, oh man, it's beneath that 27, beneath that channel that we got here, holding, it's not along unless it breaks back out of that level. If we're holding below there, and I see it start off like this, you know after the runs we've had, it just feels like that's gonna be more of a short. So I wasn't able to really catch 25s. It was kind of tricky as I was looking at that, looking to get entry points, because you had this candle is a 3-minute chart. You get a couple of death candles, this little bit of a bounce, and then here's that retest of the low. It's kind of hard to see, but it makes this little low, retests that low, and then tries to get back above it. And this is where I'm thinking to myself, if this little wick bottom doesn't lead to a break back out and test of 227, then this is a short. Because it trapped the shorts, and when Tesla's gonna pull that V shape, that's usually where you get that big jam into the upside. When that didn't happen, it sort of reclaimed that low. I worked into the position. It ends up trying to test it here again at 225. And this was pie in my face because I was looking at that 25 to 27 channel and looking for this test to fail somewhere around here and be able to catch some actual 25s. Wasn't nearly aggressive enough. Didn't get any more. End up scalping some out thinking, oh, now it's going to give me that fill. Don't get them. You couldn't get any real shares above that 225 mark. It would tick above, it would slam below. I know Luca had some trouble getting into it as well, but thankfully we still had something on board when it made the bigger capitulation down. That's what I was holding out for. At that point, I think I even said, we're talking 220 and then trailing stop. I've always thought that you should not care about how many shares you have. You should think about what the move potential gives you. Now, would I have liked to have added more and you could scalp on the way out? Sure. But once you've broken that channel in this fashion, there's no point to me getting anything out at 222. You're just sort of firing shots off into the air. I wanted to give it a shot to break that 220 cleanly if we got a really bad day and you're headed down to 215 and then moving a trail. We end up getting trailed out. But the best thing about a trend, you can always get back into said trend. All that happened is you popped into what was VWAP. We're not going to get 25s here, but you see a wick high right through about 223, tests at 24, which is about our previous entry, fails it, short the consolidation, play it to the low of the day. The mistake that got made there was, while I was then willing to hold it, the previous trade, through the low with a trailing stop. In this particular case, I didn't believe enough in the short, got it all out, snagged the second $2 win. You can see it did make that final break of 220. That will be the thing I have to do a little bit better of. A, getting maybe a few more entries in that consolidation, but B, that second follow through. The first follow through, I was willing to believe in it and trail it. The second follow through, not quite willing to do so. It's still trending downside. There was some news with regards to Twitter that is causing some pressure for Tesla. But the story goes, we don't always show you like what's the biggest win. I mean, okay, Silvergate was a bigger win for me. That being said, Tesla, it trended downside, but look how far it had already moved by the time you're getting into the trade. Sometimes you're not in that big mover and you're starting to think about the reversal. Other times you have to join the trend at what seems like a suboptimal price, and you've still got to find a way to get into it and structure a trade around it. That's why it's your trade of the day here, as always, brought to you by Day Trade the World. Scan that QR code below. Start your trading journey today.